Hey everybody, this is Brad from Blender for Absolute Beginners and Imagined International, and I'm here with Red Dog. We're going to continue with what we were doing the other day, sculpting a Skyrim Legionnaire helmet. And it's a Q&A basically that I'm going with through with Red Dog and answering questions and explaining how to use this wonderful software ZBrush.
Good afternoon, Brad, and everybody out there. Thank you for being with me.
Yeah, welcome, welcome, welcome. It's wonderful having you here, Red Dog. And we have definitely come very far in a very short period of time. You've learned a lot. Um,
Thank
you have. You've really taken to this sculpting thing quite well. I have to admit that sculpting kind of requires an artist's eye, and an artist's patience.
you.
Something that artists you know, um, either pick up along the way or they have it just in them, from the beginning. Um,
Yeah, that's why I have no hair because I pulled a little bit out each time.
but I'm just saying it's not this simple to teach everybody sculpting, and so you've definitely picked it up quite well, and I'm very happy with the progress that you've made so far.
Thank
So where we are on the Legionnaire helmet, on my side of things anyway, um, we've almost reached a point where we're ready to like increase the detail and stuff. Um, and let me grab my tablet real quick. I'll be right back.
Okay.
The United States can no longer produce enough antibiotics to treat our sick. If anything ever happened from a war standpoint, we wouldn't be able to do it. China faces a new 34% tariff on copper goods already being imposed. The EU banned 10% reciprocal tariff. What the United States is doing is pushing countries. Okay, I'm back. Getting my tablet hooked up here and grabbing my pen out of the nifty little XP pen container.
Hmm.
I really like that thing. It's neat. Keeps it
Yeah.
keeps the pen safe.
Yeah, and if it falls apart, you don't lose your parts.
Okay, so I don't want the edge of this to be sharp, but I
Hmm.
but I also don't want it to be this rounded either. So um, the top of this I'll use the H polish brush to go around the top portion and kind of flatten that out a little bit. But the
Okay.
bottom, I would like to pull the geometry to the edges. So what I'm going to do is switch over to my Move Topological brush, and um, we can go ahead and go with a larger brush on this. And basically I'm just going to start pulling this to the edges. Smooth that out a little bit. And I want to be in a view that allows me to kind of look at this
as straight on as possible.
Mhm.
Doesn't need to be perfect, but the more that,
No, but the glow helps.
yeah. Well, the angle also helps with the direction of the brush.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So,
actually, I've learned using the brush the way you've got it now. I can collapse the whole sides in for a face model. I can collapse the whole sides in this way, but I can't do it with the head-on shot. It's just the location of the brush at the moment.
mm-hmm. Yeah, it always makes a big difference, the angle that you're looking at stuff, because your brush strokes, um, they need to be going in a direction that's kind of, conducive to the direction that your geometry needs to go.
Right.
So I'm actually going to reduce my focal shift and let me give that a shot and see what happens. Yeah, that helps a lot, so I can really pull this to the edge. For this middle portion, I'm going to reduce the brush size and pull this out. And what we get is basically sharpening up this corner a little bit. And once again, I don't want it to be sharp, I just want it to be less rounded than it is.
Right.
And so now I'm done with this area up here, so I'm going to rotate my camera so I'm kind of like looking a little bit more flat on
Mm-hmm.
at this one, and I can reduce my brush size or increase my brush size rather, and start up here and just continue kind of pulling this to the edge. And I want to be careful with this portion right here. So
Mm-hmm.
I need to reduce my brush size again as I get closer to that.
Yeah, you can see your edge sharpening up with the reflection.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and have Dynamesh rebuild this by clearing my mask. And then on the top, I'm going to switch over to the H polish brush. And you can find that under your default brushes. So it's right there. And this is good for hard surface sculpting.
Now, did you remesh it already?
Yeah, I just remeshed it.
Okay.
Dynamesh rebuild. And so I'm going to increase my brush size a little bit and go over this area right here. And I'm just doing light strokes on this.
Mhm.
So it's not giving the full, it's not giving the full usage of the brush size. This is where having a pen comes in real handy because,
Wow, so in other words, you got your tablet pressure on.
yeah,
Okay.
because then I can control the intensity.
Instead of going up and manually. Yeah.
Yeah, instead of having to increase or decrease the brush size so much, like all the time, um, I just need to get the brush size close, relatively close, and then I can kind of control how much I want to apply by how
Mhm.
hard I press. Smooth this out. And we'll go around the back here. Okay. It's starting to look pretty good.
Mhm. That little detail did a lot.
Yeah, it helps out quite a bit. And another thing too is kind of becoming comfortable with the amount of geometry that you have
Hmm.
versus what you're trying to accomplish, right? So
Right.
on this model, this portion of the model right here, um, I've got 30K, almost 30,000 and a half. Um, so that, you know, is always something that's important to note um, whenever you're sculpting on something and you're able to accomplish what you're trying to do. It's always beneficial to come up here and just take note of the amount of geometry that you have
Right.
as sort of like a psychological reinforcement, like, okay, I can do this with this much geometry, you know.
Right.
And then it helps you more easily determine what geometry you're going to need for something similar in the future. The similar amount of detail and things like that.
Correct. Because it's going to take a little bit of high poly to do final detail.
A little bit, yeah. And see, right now we're still working on the secondary shapes.
Hmm.
Um, so we've only increased the geometry once. Once we got past the primary shapes, and we started working on the secondary shapes, we only increased the geometry one time. And so
Right.
once that's done, then we can increase that geometry again so that we can get in there and do the finer details.
Right.
And we are almost there. All I really want to do is kind of harden this edge around this top portion here. Use the Move Topological brush to pull this back out. I've got a nice lip around the separation between the top and bottom of the helmet. Smooth it out. Now, a lot of this detail that you're seeing right here, we're going to lose it when we, if we were to rebuild, we might lose a fair portion of that geometry. But
Mm-hmm.
but what I have is something visual, so that I can bring it back when we
Yeah.
when we increase the amount of detail, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I definitely want to pull this out too, so we have that nice lip. And this geometry is a little bit less dense in this area than it is over here, so I know that I'm not going to be able to achieve exactly what I'm after, so I'm going to go ahead and rebuild that. And now I can go back in here and kind of flatten this lip out a little bit on the top, and then reinforce it from the side as well. And right here it comes out a little too further than I would like, so I'm going to switch to the move topological and then increase my brush size quite a bit, so that I can bring this, make it nice and tight here. And maybe a little bit too much right there. And then rebuild. And I'll go ahead and smooth that area right out. You can see I don't always work on one side, right? Because in ZBrush, it doesn't care which side you sculpt on. If you sculpt on this side, it's going to, you know, with symmetry turned on, it's going to make those changes come up. And the reason why I'm pointing that out is because the light, by default, it only comes from one direction. It's one light that is in your, you know, shining down on your model. So what I see on this side and what I notice on this side may not be the same as what I see and notice on this side. So sometimes it's a little better just to go, you know, do a full rotate around your model, so that you can, you know, take a look at it from the opposite direction, and you might notice things that you didn't from the primary spot that you've been looking at. And just smooth this out a little bit. I'm going to switch to the H polish brush and increase my brush size. This area right here, and maybe a little bit of this, and see what happens here. Okay, so I think we're ready to increase our detail. We have, you know, some basic marks
Mhm.
for these. So when it gets increased, we can build off of that. Let me rearrange my cups a little bit here. Take a drink of tea.
Mhm.
So I'm going to disable Dynamesh. Going to increase. Take a look at my poly count. I'm at 30K right now, so let's Dynamesh it, and that brings me to 207,000. So
And you went up how many? That's okay. I'll figure it out. No, you didn't know. What I mean is how many resolutions you went up to go up
um, I'm
50,000.
I'm at 272, but it's going to be different for every model.
Because of detail already in it, or
Yeah,
the
yeah,
more base,
yeah,
the more you got.
yeah. Um,
Okay.
so um, basically, it's not always going to be the same figure. You know,
Okay.
so it's something that you got to kind of like just go ahead and guess that you know what you're going to need, and if it's wrong, no problem. You just undo it and tweak your resolution a little bit, and then re-dynamesh it again.
Okay.
And then whenever I do this, the first thing that I do typically is go over to the standard brush or the damn standard brush or the clay buildup or clay tubes or something like that,
Hmm.
and then take it to a real small brush size, and then just draw on the surface like this a little bit, just to give myself an idea of the amount of detail that
Gotcha.
that I achieved with that. Um,
Stroke. You got stroke.
and um, I think I'm going to go even higher. So I'm going to go back over here, and instead I'm going to go up to about twice as much there, um, thereabouts, and then Dynamesh that again. Got 478, so just under
Mm.
500,000 polys, and that's kind of what I'm looking for. So the first thing that I want to do is to go ahead and refine the lip that I put in
Hmm.
around the edge. I'm going to smooth this out a little bit and then go over it. I'm going to increase my brush size. There we go. And I'm going to bring the focal shift back to 0. So, because I'm getting these stamps in there,
Hmm.
which I mean, I can smooth it out after I'm done, but I can probably avoid that altogether.
Well, to make it, let's see, what's the way I want to word this? To make it less tedious on the edges, getting them sharp, couldn't you pull that geometry out, flatten it out, and then push the geometry back in?
Um,
The lower part of the helmet that that lip that you're trying to get,
mm-hmm.
and you pull some of that geometry out and then use your H polish and then push the bottom helmet geometry back in to make it easier to access on small lips.
That's kind of what I just did.
Oh, okay.
Because
I guess I missed it.
if I undo that a few times, watch this area.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So this
Good.
wasn't out far enough. So
Mm-hmm.
just to make it a little more simple, that's what I did. I used the move topological brush to pull this away.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to go in with the H polish brush. I'm actually going to bring this up a little bit to kind of tighten this area up. And then rebuild it. And then H polish. I think what I will do before I do that, because it's not exactly wanting to go. It's not exactly wanting to flatten this out like it is back here. So what I'll do
Mm-hmm.
is build it out just a little bit with the clay buildup, clay tubes actually. And so I'm just going to let me reduce my brush size a little bit, and I'm going to go along this edge
Mm-hmm.
and smooth it out. I'm going to smooth out all of this back here. So let me do that one more time in this area. Smooth it out. And now I've got something I think the H polish will be able to handle. Same thing here. It's just a little too angled down already, so I need to build out that
Mhm.
edge.
Mm-hmm.
So now I'm doing this side. One more time. bring up this. And I'll watch it on my other monitor.
Mhm. And actually, a project like this, being that helmet, you really don't have to be so gentle with it, because then it would just look nicked up and used, and
Mm-hmm.
got hit in the head quite a bit.
Mm-hmm. Which we're going to put a lot of those details in. That's going to be part of what we're going to do along the way. But
Mm-hmm.
a lot of that you can accomplish, as you go. It's perfectly fine. A lot of times with sculpting, you're going to wind up having these happy little accidents
Mm-hmm.
that can kind of, achieve kind of what you were, the type of effect that you were looking to get, or maybe an effect that you didn't anticipate, but it
Mm-hmm.
looks pretty good, and you're like, hey, I think I'll go with that. happens
Yeah.
happens all the time. And with this area right here, it's just a little bit too rounded. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to switch to the pinch brush, and I'm just going to go lightly over that area. And rebuild it. And let's do our bottom one more time. And we can actually, we've already pretty much got the angle that we want on the bottom portion, so we can use the pinch brush.
Okay, so pinch works on outer and inner corners.
Yeah. Well, these are both, that's an outer corner that I was just
Right,
on.
right, right.
And this is same deal pretty much.
But it would
Um,
work on an inner corner.
yeah, you are correct though. And then you can also use the reverse. You can
Oh, yeah,
reverse.
yeah, yeah.
You can reverse the brush.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Make some nice metal dents, wouldn't it?
And basically, what it does is it just consolidates or squishes the surrounding geometry
Uh-huh.
inwards, and then you just rebuild it, and the result is pretty awesome, pretty quickly too. Dynamesh is fantastic. It's absolutely powerful. And I kind of want this edge to like deteriorate or disintegrate as it goes up into this area right here. So I'm just going to
Mm-hmm.
smooth that
Fade it
out.
out.
back to the move topological, and I'm going to drag this down and drag the top part up just a little bit, just to kind of make that a little bit more of a steady line. Okay, so the majority of this portion right here is pretty good, but I don't want to smooth this with a large brush because I'm probably going to lose
Geometry.
I'm going to lose like the angle. It's going to take this angle and slope it, and I want this to be a bit more harsh of a transition. So if I smooth it right now, I'm going to lose that.
Right.
So I don't want to do that. I want to reduce my brush size, maybe about that much, and go over this area lightly. And I'm keeping a lot of my angle that I had in there. And so the first thing I'm going to do here is H polish, same brush size approximately, and go over this area right here. So I'm kind of like flattening this out. And I've got two little dips right here, and it comes out in the center, and it dips down right here on the sides, so like that. So what I'm going to do is switch over to the clay tubes, kind of fill that area in a little bit. Smooth it. And then H polish over that whole area. And this I want to be flat as possible. So what I will do is start masking this area off. The mask pen. Okay, and then I'm going to go back and I'm going to select the mask lasso, and I'm going to go over this. like that.
What'd you do? Sharpen it?
Yeah, I just took off the extra basically, so that it, it's pretty much a fine line that goes all the way along the sides.
Mm-hmm.
And then the inside doesn't matter because I want all of that to be masked. So
Mm-hmm.
the option that I'm going to go with is under masking, and I believe it's auto region. No. Let me see here. Where is
I've
it?
got a sharp button in there too that makes that sharp on the outside. Forget where it's at. I just seen it
Oh,
yesterday.
okay. You know what? It is auto region, but what's going on is there's probably a portion of this that's not fully masked.
Mm-hmm.
So what auto region needs is it needs this to be fully
Connected.
enclosed.
Okay.
So like a full circle or box or square, and then it will mask the inside. So what I need to
Mm.
do is first I need sharpen, and you can do that with the control and alt button. So you don't need to click the sharpen button. If I just
Okay.
hold the control and alt button down and then click on my model a few times, it'll sharpen that mask. And now,
Gotcha.
oops, I clicked the wrong one. Mask region, auto region. It's not doing it for some reason. Let me grow the mask, sharpen it, and auto region. So
There you
it
go.
did it this time. And then I can just trim up my edges. Okay. And I think that's pretty good. So I'm going to switch to move, which is the W key.
Mm-hmm.
And I want this to kind of be positioned, based on the direction that I want to go. So the first thing that I'll do is hold the alt button and click as I'm looking basically straight at the area that I want to flatten out. Now that I have it,
Right.
into kind of in a much better position than it was just a second ago, now I'm going to rotate and take a look at this from another angle, and I can see that the direction that the z-axis is pointing is pretty much what I want to accomplish. That's pretty much going in the direction that I want to go. And so right at the moment, I'm locked.
Mm-hmm.
So I still want to be able to move this around a little bit. So I'm going to unlock this. And I'm going to rotate it slightly. And I'm kind of looking at this line right
Mm-hmm.
here and trying to match this up.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now it doesn't matter that this is, which direction this is pointing, because the origin of my transformation is, right where I want to be.
Mm-hmm.
I'm also going to rotate, and I'm looking at directly the bottom,
Mm-hmm.
and I want to rotate this just slightly, and I think I'm good. So I'm going to control and click off of my model, and that will invert my mask, and then make sure that my move tool is now locked.
Okay.
And I'm going to scale, which is this block right here. So I want to scale right towards the center, and I'm going to do that over and over again. Now, the depth on this is not very much.
Mm-hmm.
When you look at it from this one right here, it's not a whole lot of depth. So it's probably a little too much as far as this depth is concerned. So I'm scaled pretty much what I want. Flatten that out. So now I'm going to use the arrow to pull that back out a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And rotate around to look at it from a few different angles here. And by doing it this way, it kind of gave this a little dip at the edge, and then it comes back up, which is
Okay.
kind of neat. May not be a detail that's in this reference image, but
Mm-hmm.
if you like, basically what this is a breathing filter for the soldier, so he can breathe through this area right here. So you can probably imagine this as some sort of separate insert mesh.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's certainly not steel like the rest of the helmet is. So it would probably have some sort of lip on the inside.
Yeah, or you can actually change that out and put your screen in there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I would like to go ahead and maintain that little detail. Once again, happy little accident, something that I did not anticipate, but you know, the results are kind of pleasing to me, so I'm going to go ahead and accept that. I'm going to go ahead and clear my mask and do it one more time to rebuild. And that is pretty neat.
Yeah, but it should be the same size because you went down and then back up. But that actually, what's that word I'm looking for? Not indent. Yeah, inset. It actually inset it.
Yeah, so what happened is the edge of the mask was still, it was as sharp as it could be,
Mm-hmm.
but it can't be real sharp, because even though we have 478,000 polys, it's still about as sharp as it could have been, you know. I guess is what I'm trying to say, which leaves a soft edge.
Mm-hmm.
So that's pretty good. And there is a little bit of a lip on this side that comes out. And so to achieve that, I think I will use the clay tubes. And one of the psychological humps of brushes like the clay tubes is a lot of times people are like, well, I have to get it perfect, right? And because that doesn't look good. Well, it's a combination of the clay tubes and then some other stuff that you're going to do, and then by the time you're done, then it looks a whole lot better. So
Right.
a lot of times people look at it and they're like, well, I guess I'm using the wrong brush. Well, no, you just have to take it step by step and do a few different things in order to achieve what you want.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
so I rebuilt it.
Brushes.
I rebuilt it, and then I'm going to polish it. Polish it from this side.
Yeah, it wouldn't be hard for them if they didn't. I mean, if the brush did everything for you.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so this portion right here is still a little bit more rounded than I want it to be, so I'm going to go with the pinch brush, increase my brush size a little bit, and notice that the edge, the secondary edge of it is not reaching over here. Or is it? Yeah, it might be. But I think it might be okay if I brush over it lightly. And one thing that you can do is you can always just mask it off. So I can use the mask pen, and then off of my model, drag that out. I'm going to use the space bar while I hold control and drag around, and then I can move this box around and I can mask.
Can you taper one side of that mask?
I'm sorry?
Can you? I see you can you. Oh, I got you. It's too bad they don't have a memory mask, huh? What you've been through on the mask with the project in case you need to change something or redo it.
If you have a specific shape that you want to
Yeah.
mask,
You can say,
you can just use an alpha.
oh, okay.
So you'd have to make the alpha in Photoshop or
Yes.
something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, you can do that.
Yeah, I was looking at them brushes and I made something real funky this morning. And I said, man, I should make that into an alpha. It looks like a wart, disconfigured wart for a monster or something, you know?
Yeah, you can make alphas in ZBrush, or you can make alphas in Photoshop from scratch.
I got you.
So ZBrush will take, any geometry, anything that's on your canvas, and anything that's in position. So I can, if I wanted this to be an alpha, I can say that I wanted it to be from this angled view right here. I can do that, and then I can convert that into an alpha. And then there are like several different ways that you can do that.
Now, will ZBrush accept GIMP?
Yeah, because you can just export it as a PNG or a JPEG or whatever you want. But if
Oh,
you
okay.
want it to have transparency, then you would use PNG with a
Mhm.
transparent background, and
Okay.
then you can, you know, do it
Uh-huh.
that way.
Okay.
And so one way that you can create an alpha with this is I can go ahead, let me clear the mask, and I can render this, BPR, render, and then
Mhm.
when you go up to the render palette, um, you go to the BPR render pass, and
Uh-huh.
this is your depth mask, and it's also what you would export as an alpha.
Oh, okay.
So you just
That makes sense.
left click on that. Yeah, it makes perfect sense that your depth information is going to translate directly into what an alpha is going to want
Yes.
to work.
One way or another.
Yeah. So you just click on that depth result, and then
Mhm.
it's going to ask you, what do you want to name it, where do you want to save it, and it is saving as a Photoshop PSD. You can also switch that to a bitmap or a TIFF,
Okay.
and when you export, yeah, and there's a whole bunch of different ways um, that you can create alphas in ZBrush. That's just one of them. Okay, so let's work on the eyes a little bit. I think they're just a little too large, so I'm going to switch to the topological, increase my brush size, and I'm going to start pulling up. And I'm going to zoom in just a little bit, make my canvas a little larger, and just looking at the reference image on my other monitor. Okay, so now I'm going to tighten up the edge around it. Use a pinch brush. rebuild it. Okay, so it's got this lip that goes around the edge. So I'm going to use the clay buildup. Or sorry, clay tubes. And this bottom one is a lot smaller than the top is. So reduce my brush size and go over that. I'm going to rebuild. I think I'm going to leave it that way and see what I might be able to do about it later. Okay, so we've got basically okay, so I think what I'm going to do is hold my shift button down and reduce the intensity on my smooth. And I'm going to bring it down to say 20 and go over that area one more time, and that's a lot closer to the kind of smooth that I want. I didn't want the full 100 on that. Okay, so there's a little bit of a separation right here. So I'm going to use the dam standard and reduce my brush size and cut this in. And back to clay tubes and start bringing this back. Looks like it comes back right about there. And H polish. Back to clay tubes. And increase the brush size a little bit. And I'm just going to basically disintegrate that. And then polish that. All right, this with this the reference images, you can see that this area that we just did and then this area is very similar to each other. This area we drew it, you know, with the clay tubes and then polished it out. But I'm going to show you a completely different method for achieving something very similar.
Okay.
So let's actually bring let's do that. And it's not matching up exactly. That's all right. It's okay. Okay, so what I'm going to do is reduce my see-through just a little bit. And one thing I can do is go up to preferences. I think that's where it is here. see. Tablet. And then use tablet, turn it off. And what this does is it turns your sensitivity, your pressure sensitivity, turns it off completely. So no matter what, you're drawing 100%, as though you're pressing all the way down, but you don't need to do that.
Right.
And so with my mask pen, I'm going to start brushing over this, and I can go with a smaller brush. Okay, now I'm going to switch to the mask lasso and then use that to kind of trim this up. It's taking more of it than I want. Why is it doing that? Okay, let's go back and turn that back on. See what happens. No, it's what it's doing there. Has something to do with the
Transparency.
it was going through the model.
Mm.
It was copying it to the other side, and it wasn't matching up. I guess because perspective. Yeah, it's perspective. That was the culprit right there. Guarantee it. And there are other ways to use reference images in ZBrush.
Yes.
You don't have to do this whole see-through thing. You can set up actual images in your 3D view.
I was studying that this morning, but I didn't know how the guy made his mesh see-through, because I tried to see-through up there, and that just does the whole screen,
Right.
everything to your desktop.
What you want to use in that scenario is transparency.
That didn't work for me, and I didn't know why.
because you didn't have the model selected.
Oh,
You see how these are different?
yeah.
So when you have transparency turned on, ghost is another level, first of all. So if I turn ghost on, then only what I have selected is transparent. You know, it has the material applied to it, but it's also transparent. Everything
But
else,
do you have to have two of them in there? Can you just use one sphere and make it transparent and still model on it?
what?
Uh, I said, can you have just, you got two pieces in there, two spheres or
Mm-hmm. Right,
two subtools.
right.
Can you just have one sphere in there and make it transparent so you can still model on it?
Sure. Yeah, but
Okay.
your reference images are going to be an actual model in
Right.
your view. So if
Mhm.
you use ghost, those would look like this, and you would not see anything.
Okay.
So
Oh,
you want to turn ghost off, and that way you can see through the model that you're sculpting on, and this one still has the image applied to it.
right, right.
And then you can do it.
Now you pushing Alt to subtract?
Control and Alt.
Okay.
Control is always the starter for your mask.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So if I just do that, then that masks. But if I hold
Mm-hmm.
Control and Alt,
Okay. It's subtract.
yep.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm going to turn see-through off now. And first thing I'm going to do is hold Control and Alt and then click, 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 and sharpen that mask up.
Oh, okay.
Now I'm going to do it one more time. Sharpen it up. Sharpen. All right, that's pretty much. Yeah, let me go ahead and do this part right here. Okay. All right, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go over to Subtool and Extract. And I'm probably not going to want this thickness, but I'm just going to go ahead and show you. Extract, and it gives me a preview. Now,
Okay.
when you rotate your camera or you zoom in or zoom out, the preview goes away.
Okay.
So you'll just have to, if you decide to rotate and if you decide to zoom in or out, you'll just have to do it again and take a look at it and then do it over. Double does that right there. When double button is enabled, ZBrush will extract with the thickness being applied on both sides of the surface, ignoring the positive or negative aspect of the value. So I want to turn double off
Got it.
because I only want it to come out.
Mm-hmm.
And as far as the thickness is concerned, I think I'm going to reduce that to 0.01, about half the thickness, and I'm going to leave T-border on. And that's what T-border does. When T-border is pressed, the resulting extracted mesh will have a thin border of geometry applied around the edge.
Okay.
So I'm going to check that one more time, and that looks good, so I'm going to accept. And what that does is it adds it as a subtool. So now that is its own subtool in my project.
Okay.
And it's really cool because, as you can see, it conforms to the shape. Now let me take a